The number one issue, and I mentioned it before, that boards are really looking for from their CIO and CISO in terms of cyber is education. Boards are very scared about the whole concept of cybersecurity, about the risk to the company and the risk to them personally on cyber. So education, first and foremost, I think is what boards appreciate. I just spent some time with my former CISO from Cisco doing a special education session for the Armstrong Ceilings Board, where I am now, last fall. And we really did it. It was kind of Cyber 101. And they don't need the advanced course. Do not give them the advanced course. Cyber 101, it's just some basics around what is cyber, what do you have to be concerned about? And listen, the board members read about these attacks. They read about the horrible things that happen to companies, whether it's shutting them down, having to pay a lot of ransomware, whatever that is, big risks. But they don't really understand, okay, how did those vulnerabilities happen? How can we close them? So one thing that I've found very effective is almost walking through with your board. Pick your number, the last half dozen, the last dozen very public cyber attacks that went out there and crippled companies. Explain to your board how they got attacked and what was the vulnerability, and how are you as a company working on closing that? You know what you will find as you go to do that? I think the board's worried that these are very sophisticated and deeply technical attacks that happen. And when you really go through those, they're not. But not to say that there's not emerging threats out there that are very sophisticated. But most of these big attacks are, you just didn't provide the last patch that was out there on whatever got attacked. Your employee opened up a malware email and set off a whole string of bad events. So a lot of it, the board, when you give them the basic blocking and tackling about it, they calm down, they understand the threat. And I think a great way to do that is to walk through some of those public events that have happened and describe what happened and how you and your company are protecting against them and what your program is to protect against them. So I think it's education. I think they want to understand your firm's cyber risk. Everyone's slightly different. As a CIO or a CISO, when you go to bed at night, what's your number one worry? And then the board wants to understand, okay, what's our program to mitigate that risk? I don't think any board thinks you can eliminate cyber risk. Nor do they expect you to, and they realize that this is a very fast-moving field where if you've got it covered today, there'll be a new threat out there tomorrow that you need to get at. And I think the more that you can be transparent around the good and the bad and the ugly of what you're dealing with, the more comfortable they're going to feel. It's not a good idea to go in and tell your board, you got cyber all covered. Don't worry about it, because they'll all know you're full of crap. So you need to kind of tell them. They will really appreciate knowing, hey, here's where we're at risk. Here's what we're doing about it. Here's what's my next emerging risk that I'm really worried about. These are the challenges that I got to get at. They'll feel much better hearing that and hearing it straight up from you.